Hey folks, Wally DM here, and today we're going to take a look at a puzzle where adventuring parties are traveling down into a pyramid or some type of a tomb or a crypt, and they're looking for a magical item. Perhaps a town or a village needs this item to stabilize their environment or something like that. It's up to you as the dungeon master. But as far as the puzzle goes, we're going to have a very simple Tower of Hanoi that is going to be blocking their entry. All they need to do is move these 30 to 40 pound discs into the proper position, and it's going to open up into the tomb. However, if they fail to do that or they do it incorrectly, then there's going to be either a poisonous gas trap that's going to erupt, or even worse, maybe a mummy or some other type of creature is going to be awakened to protect the tomb. Now, this puzzle was submitted by Ova, an important part of our Discord community and a Wally DM patron, and this one's going to be called the Tomb of Hanoi. So in this puzzle, our adventuring party is looking for an item that is in a crypt. I'm thinking like ancient Egypt or some type of pyramids type where the dead has been buried with some long lost hidden treasures. Perhaps there's an item that they need to retrieve. Now this is the door that's going to lead to the final chamber, and it is going to be sealed by an 84th level wizard. So the only way they're going to be able to get through this is to put the correct passcode in. And the passcode is going to be these 3 stone blocks that are on top of these movable cylinders right here in the middle of this room. Although if you don't want to have a door that they need to get through, perhaps this is the final room, and the item that they need is buried inside of this sarcophagus, and the only way to be able to open this is to be able to solve the puzzle by moving the stones from block to block. That's up to you and how you want to run it in your game. So we're going to go with the door instead. Now I would probably have this dungeon or this crypt, it's going to have others that were buried here long ago, but of course the ruler is going to be in the final room, and we're going to deal with that when they come. So there's going to be sarcophagi and all kinds of different things along the way as they're traveling through this dungeon. But again, this is going to be the second to the last room, and the only way to get through here is to solve the puzzle. So let's take a look at what we have. Our adventuring party is going to enter this room, and they're going to see 3 different cylinders. Now on top of these cylinders, or at least on top of 2 of these cylinders, are some stone blocks. Now I'm going to have these measure 15 feet across for the yellow one, 10 feet across for the blue one, and 5 feet across for the red one. So the idea for each of these characters is they're going to probably need 2 of them to be able to move them from stone to stone. Now currently the far left cylinder is higher than the other 2. So this one is sitting at the highest point, this one the second highest point, and this one the third highest point. Other things of notice in this room, there is another sarcophagi over here that is sealed, and there are some pottery and candlesticks and things of that nature. Now, of course, our character is going to want to investigate. So let's say our Dragonborn fighter comes over here to this cylinder. I would probably allow them a DC 12 investigation check, and on success, they're going to be able to see that on top of the cylinder, there's a few very faint yellow paint scrapings, or perhaps maybe a larger indentation. And what this is going to tell our Dragonborn friend is that this yellow cylinder probably goes on top of this one, so it is in the incorrect position. Now before we continue, I also thought as well, perhaps there's different combinations that opens different doors. And the current combination with the yellow, the red on the far right, and the blue in the middle, perhaps that opens this door over here. So in order for them to get out, they need to put it back in this combination. But in order to get through this door, it's going to be a combination that starts with this big yellow disc on top over here, and then the blue and red are probably going to be put on top of it as well. But maybe there's another combination, up to you, that's going to open a secret door to the east or the west. I'd be interested to see if you would do that. Leave a comment below and let me know. Now another thing that I had considered is to give the characters a clue. Now they already have the investigation check on this pillar over here, and so they know that they need to begin by moving the yellow block over here to the top of this cylinder. Now I had also considered giving them a clue, and that might be something you want to do, so let's introduce that now. Now this is the clue that I was thinking, and this might be something that I might have over on this wall over here. So perhaps behind this wall they're going to see this, and that way they know that the yellow, the blue, and the red need to be stacked on top of each other. But what I think would be more fun is perhaps if they took a look at these 3 pieces of pottery here, perhaps if they look at the bottom, they're going to see this on the bottom of this pottery. So if they look at the bottom there, they're going to see this clue. And when you know it, it is on the far left one, which would match our cylinders. Of course, you could also have it maybe inside there. So maybe if they look inside, maybe it's going to be dark, and they could use the light trick. They could take like a stone, cast a light cantrip on it, drop it in there, and then when they look down in there, they're going to see this. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Again, leave a comment below and let me know what you would do with this puzzle. So if your characters haven't figured it out yet, you can definitely give them a clue that this yellow block definitely needs to be moved over here. The blue would have to sit on top of it, and the red on top of it. So they're going to need to make a 3-block pyramid in order to open this door to the Tomb of Hanoi. Now, if you want to give your characters an additional hint, I would probably allow a DC 20 investigation check, and they would be able to determine that they should be able to do this in 5 different moves. So it's going to take moving 5 blocks over, and they should be able to complete this. Now, one final note before we go over the solution is our characters can look at these cylinders, and they are going to be able to see that they are going to move up and down. And this is going to be in accordance with the weight. And the weight of these blocks, even though they're different sizes, are all the same weight. So let's say they all weigh 30 to 40 pounds apiece. The red one's 30 to 40 and the yellow one's 30 to 40. Now, on a DC 20 investigation check, perhaps they're also going to be able to determine that if they move some of these blocks in the wrong position, that some type of a poisonous gas or other type of trap could be triggered. That it is going to be a possibility as a failsafe to protect the tomb. So with all the information, do you know how to solve the puzzle? I'll give you a second if you'd like to figure it out. Did you get it? Great. Let's go over the answer. So there's 2 things that I'd like to do, and the first one is I'm going to show you how to solve this, and then the second one is I'm going to put in where I think some traps would be triggered if they do this in an incorrect way. So let's go over the solution first. Again, our Dragonborn fighter, seeing that there is some yellow residue over here on the far left, and it looks like an indentation of where the big yellow block goes. So that's where we need to start. And I like the idea of having 2 characters doing it at a time. These weigh 30 to 40 pounds a piece, and they're going to have to do some teamwork and move things over. So let's start with moving the red over to the blue. Now, when they do this, then this cylinder is going to raise up a little bit, and this one's going to sink down. So after the first step, no traps are triggered, and now we're going to take a little bit of teamwork once again, and we're going to take this yellow one, and we're going to move it to the far left. And as you can see, these stone cylinders are moving up and down as the weight is applied. Now, of course, we're going to come back over here, and now we're going to take this red one and we're going to move it over into this direction. And now we can take our blue one and move it over on top over here. And then finally, our red is going to come over on the far left. So now with our stone blocks correctly assembled, per the diagram that they may have found earlier, and the stone cylinder pushed all the way into the ground, that's going to unlock this door. And our adventuring party can enter the final resting place and enter the Tomb of Hanoi. Okay, so there is going to be a trap portion of this puzzle, and unfortunately the adventurers are not going to be able to figure it out other than through trial and error. So let's go over what I would like to include as a few of those traps. So I would say that if at any time that this stone cylinder here or this stone cylinder here are all the way flat to the ground, so like if they try to put this blue one over here on top of this, and this goes flat to the ground, then that's going to trigger the trap. And perhaps your trap that's going to be triggered is just this poisonous gas. Perhaps maybe a giant spider comes out from the walls and attacks. Or what I really like is perhaps this sarcophagus over here opens up, and now a mummy comes out, and we roll for initiative as this mummy is to protect this area. But again, what the trap does is going to be totally up to you when you run this in your game. So one of these 2 cylinders going all the way down and being flat to the ground is going to trigger the trap. I would also say that if a bigger block is set on top of a smaller block, so let's say we start moving things around and they put the yellow one on top of the red and the blue like this, I would also say that that's either going to flatten the cylinder or that is going to trigger the trap. And the same if we just start moving things about this way. So let's say we're trying to move this yellow one over here, we put it on top of the blue. That's not going to push the cylinder all the way, this stone cylinder all the way down, but it is going to trigger the trap because this yellow and blue, the yellow being the bigger one, is in the incorrect position on top of the blue. So that could also trigger the trap. I would also think that another way to trigger the trap is, of course, our 2 characters are going to come over. It's going to take some teamwork. They're going to take this one off. But let's say our other team, let's get this spider off of this guy. Let's say our other team, our Dragonborn and our Dwarf, come over and take this one off. And if at any time 2 of the stone blocks are off of the cylinders, then that will also trigger the trap. But those are just some ways that I would think. And again, poisonous gas, maybe some electric lightning or something like that, a mummy, a spider, some type of combat. It are all perfect examples or ways to use this. And of course, they can deal with the threat and then get back to working on the puzzle. So that is the Tomb of Hanoi. Now, if you're familiar with the Tower of Hanoi puzzle, this is usually done on 3 different blocks, and you get 6 or 7 of those discs, and they're stacked from the biggest all the way up to the smallest, and you're supposed to replicate that by moving them over into the middle and the far end until you have all of them stacked up, largest to smallest on the left to largest to smallest on the right. But this is a very time-consuming puzzle, and it can be very frustrating. So I've never found a way to incorporate this into Dungeons and Dragons until Ova presented this simplified version in the Discord community. So thanks again to Ova for submitting this, and I hope you like the way that this puzzle video turned out. So with that being said, what did you think of the puzzle? Is this something that you would use in your game? And if so, what would you do differently? And also, I'm going to open up our Patreon behind the scenes video where I go through and give you the background information and the insider scoop, including what all the terrain pieces came from and the thought process of making this video. And I'm going to open this up to the public. This is a one-time thing that's usually reserved for the patrons and the YouTube memberships of the $2 level or higher. But if you're interested in supporting this channel and if you like what I do here, then hopefully you'll consider joining us on Patreon or joining the channel, become a Prismatic Owl, and enjoy this behind the scenes. I'm going to try to do behind the scenes videos for every puzzle that I do. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.